Hello everyone, my name is Pat. Welcome to my channel. Today I'm bringing you guys my October wrap-up. Now for the month of October, I read a total of 11 novels, 11 books. I actually thought I read less than that. I don't know why, but I looked at my story graph and turns out I read 11 books, which is quite a lot still. So there's that. Also, I joined Fortnite Fright. It was kind of a fail, but I will talk about that in my Fortnite Frights wrap up, but I will also be including all the books I read for that readathon here. So, alright, so the first book that I finished for the month of October is Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. This is one of my most anticipated books for this year, especially for this season, spooky season, fall season. I read it and I actually rated this a 5 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed reading this book. I think I read this in like 2 days or maybe a little less because I was just flying through it. I really enjoy the characters. I love the world. It was different a little bit from what I expected. I thought it was gonna be dark academia, but it is actually fantasy. There's elements of magic in here. So, or I guess you could call it speculative fiction under that genre, where it's set here in this world, but there's an existence of magic. And so here we are following the main character, Alex Stern, who gets scouted by one of the Yale University people. And so she goes here and trains as one of the, I forgot what they're called, but essentially they're part of a group that regulates people who can use magic or has powers. And there's a mystery here, there's murder, and I'm very excited. I thought it was going to be a standalone. Thankfully it's not, because I'm very excited to see what's going to happen next. I really enjoy the main character as well. She's the character that you know has a history, and she's not completely likable, but I will definitely say there's quite a few trigger warnings in here. There's a lot of elements of sexual abuse and sexual assault, so if you're sensitive about those things, I will also include a few more trigger warnings in the description box below as much as I could find about this book. So, Ninth House by Leigh Bardugo. I really enjoy this. I know I've heard quite a few mixed things about this, but honestly I really love this, so I'm very excited to read the next book whenever it will come out. So it's the first book that I finished for the month of October. The next book that I finished is actually an ebook copy of a graphic novel. I finished Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise. I actually read this kind of halfway through and then I stopped, and then I finished it this month because there's I think only 4 or 5 graphic novels that are out. I already read 2 of them, and I want to savor as much Avatar content as much as I can, because you know I want to treasure it, or I want it to go for a very long time, because I really truly love Avatar. So Avatar: The Last Airbender, The Promise, this was very emotional. I was very much hurt and sad for everything that kind of happened here, like the main conflict, but I rated this a 5 out of 5 stars still. So the next book that I finished is Into the Magic Shop, a neurosurgeon's quest to discover the mysteries of the brain and the secrets of the heart by James R. Doty, MD. This is a non-fiction kind of autobiography / memoir, not really sure where it goes under, but this is telling the story of the author, James R. Doty. What it says here is that the most important lessons that he learned for life that he did not learn in med school or anywhere else as a doctor. He learned it as a 12-year-old that doesn't know what he wants to do for the rest of his life. So it's not really sure what to do for the rest of his life. Essentially, this is a book about the author being taught at a very young age how to meditate and be mindful and to manifest what you want, to have a clear mind. And it actually, I was really surprised with how easy it was to read. It reads like a fiction novel. So I really enjoyed this. I have a few tab marks. I really enjoyed it up until I think the halfway point. The halfway point, everything just felt kind of unrealistic, and there were elements here that kind of felt like I'm not sure if that really happened, or it just felt very convenient for the author to achieve. Obviously, this is his story, and according to him, this is all true. So I don't know about that, but I truly enjoyed this book in that it really tells you or shows you kind of the benefits and effects of having a calm mind or meditating, and the studies of, well, here in the beginning, during this time that he was learning these like meditative stuff, it hasn't been studied very much, if at all. So it kind of is like a testimony on how effective these practices are. And it's also written down here the different practices and different kind of rules on how you can do them. So I feel like this is very good as kind of a informative, and that you can follow the instructions but also can see how it could be very helpful. So into the magic shop for James R. Doty, I rate this 4 stars. So yeah. The next book that I finished is Finna by Nino Cipri. I rated this a 4 out of 5 stars. This is a short story / novella following 2 characters that are working in this store that's kind of resembles IKEA. It's also Swedish, and they are ex, kind of. They just broken up, and in this particular day, an elderly customer gets lost, and apparently the stores that they work in are known for having wormholes, essentially. So the theory is that this elderly person found a wormhole by accident and traveled to one of the multiverses. And so it's up to these 2 characters to find this elderly customer and bring her back. So we're also following them as they go through this whole adventure while they're still very much still freshly broken up. And we're also delving into their relationship and who they are and why they broke up, etc. And it's very short, but I very much enjoyed this. I read this again a 4 out of 5 stars. I enjoyed the characters, and the world was very interesting. Even though it's very short, I felt like we really learned a lot about our characters, and definitely explores the differences that people can have and how that can affect relationships, and also like communication and just different aspects of being in a relationship in terms of what a person is going through and who they are. Anyway, I really enjoyed, again, the exploration of the relationship between the 2 characters, as well as the exploration of the different worlds. Even though it was short, I felt like it didn't feel like there was anything lacking, or it didn't feel like, I didn't connect. It didn't feel like I didn't connect with the characters. So 4 out of 5 stars. I really enjoyed this. So the next book that I finished is So This Is Love by Elizabeth Lim. This is part of the A Twisted Tales series by Disney, and this is the retelling of Cinderella. I rated this a 3.25 stars. The beginning felt so rushed. The first chapter was immediately like Cinderella telling us that pretty much the premise of the original story, and then we follow her as she goes to the ball, essentially, already. She meets the prince, and then they talk, and then there's definitely a lot more elements in here than the original story. There's much more magic and much more politics, and the world is just a lot more realized, and it's also talking about like the magic in the world and relationships between different countries, etc. So I really like that aspect, but I didn't really connect with the characters. The characters were fine, but I felt like I didn't really connect with them very much. The world was very interesting. I actually enjoyed the world because there's a lot more elements that could have been explored, a lot more elements that were explored. But overall, the story kind of, in a way, it felt rushed in the beginning, and then there wasn't really a lot happening in the middle, and then the last parts, that's where everything kind of happened. It's just like it happened too fast. Like it felt like the middle didn't really have a lot of things happening, but then the end there was things happening right after the other. It just felt a little too rushed. So yeah, 3.95 out of 5 stars. The next book that I finished is Empire of Dreams by Ray Carson. This is the 4th book in the A Girl of Thorns series. This is more of a companion novel than really like a continuation of the series. Here we're following Red Sparkle Stone. She is adopted, or was going to be adopted by Eliza, our main character for the first 3 books in the series, and because of political machinations, she was not able to be adopted by Eliza and Hector, and so she decides to join the Royal Guard, where it's it's pretty much the elite guard for the kingdom, and she joins, and we follow her as she discovers a plot against the Empress and discovers more about who she is and what she can do and her powers, etc. I rate this a 4.25 stars. I really enjoyed this book. This is another book that I flew through. I really like Red as a character. She has gone through so much, but she's not jaded at all. She's very strong. She knows what she likes and she knows what she wants. She knows how to get it, and she's very the kind of smart that's not really cunning, but more like just she can see connections in, you know, different events and people. So I really liked her as a character. I really enjoyed the friendship that she's made through her joining the Royal Guard. Obviously, she's going through a lot as, you know, a former, or as someone who was taken in by the royal family, but also someone who's half Inferno, which is like prejudiced against, the people are prejudiced against Inferno. So again, I really enjoyed this. I remember loving A Girl of Thorns, so I was very excited to continue with this series. I didn't know that this was part of the series, like part of it. I thought it was just like a companion novel-ish that's not really in relation to the series, so I was very surprised to hear that. But again, I really enjoyed this. 4.25 out of 5 stars. I definitely want to know if there's going to be more in this series, or like a spin-off series set in the same world. So Emperor of Dreams by Carson. The next book that I finished is Star Daughter by Shveta, Thakrar, and this one I rated 3.25 out of 5 stars. I was very excited to read this because I've heard a lot of people talk about this, and it's been going around BookTube and Bookstagram. This fell flat for me. I did not like any of the characters, really. The main character was fine. There really wasn't anything that I particularly very much disliked about her or hate about her, but it just felt like she's letting a lot of people take control of her life, and she doesn't want to, but at the same time she's just letting them. And it just felt like a lot of people have a hand in her life, and she's letting them take over her life. And just, I don't know, I felt like there were too many people that are too invested in what she wants, what she's gonna do, and who she is. And so I just didn't feel like, I didn't really connect with her, because she didn't feel like she was really fighting against these people that want to control her life. She's just letting them do what they want, and like she wants to take control of her life, but at the same time she's not really doing anything about it. So I didn't really enjoy the main character. The world was interesting, but I felt like it was also very confusing. There's like parts of it that were mentioned that kind of felt like it should have been explained more, and the world just didn't feel complete. The world didn't feel like it was fully realized, and the whole thing kind of felt like it was rushed, and she's going through this world that she doesn't know anything about. Nobody explains anything to her, or a lot of things to her, and she just goes with it. I'm just like, wait, hold on. Can you, like, you know, want to learn more about this? Like, aren't you not curious? Are you just gonna go with this? Or, you know, like, there wasn't any kind of curiosity in her in terms of like the situation that she's in. There is a little bit, obviously, because she's, you know, thrown into this different world. Obviously she would want to know what's going on and what she needs to do, etc. But it just didn't feel like she wanted to do anything else. Like, again, it's part of the control of the other people's wanting to control her life. It just felt like she just let them control it, and, you know, she just let them drive her or point her to where she needs to go, or where she can go. And I felt like she just didn't want to, that's what I felt about her, you know, as a character. And I didn't like that. It didn't feel like she had no choice. I felt like she should have stood up a little bit more. I feel like she didn't really say anything or do anything, and she wasn't really even thinking about it. It didn't feel like she was even trying, or she wasn't even thinking about changing. Like, really, like, she wasn't really thinking about changing the direction of her life and have more control of it. Just felt like she was going with what people around her want. So I didn't particularly enjoy her. The world felt like it was very incomplete. Like, there was a lot of stuff that wasn't really explained, that we just kind of went over and didn't really think or go through. And yeah, 3.25 stars. The world is very interesting, and the writing is very beautiful too. That's one thing. The writing is very, very beautiful. It's very poetic. I really, really liked the writing. But the world itself didn't feel complete. The character felt like she was just going through what people wanted her to do, and she wasn't really, she doesn't really want to do anything. So, yeah, was very disappointed about this because I wanted to get this copy because it's very beautiful, but it's not really a book that I would ever think about rereading. So, sorry, daughter. Alright, so the next book that I finished is The Legend of Sleepy Hollow by Washington Irving. This is a short story, I believe, or like a novella. And this is one of the books that the rest of the books here are going to be the books I read for Fortnite Frights. So this is the first one. I rated this a 4 stars, I believe. If I rated this, I don't think I did. Yeah, I didn't rate it. So I would rate this, actually no, I would rate this more 3 stars. I did enjoy it. I listened to the audiobook of this, and it's kind of a full cast of characters, so I really enjoyed that. It was a lot of fun to listen to. But there wasn't really anything about this. It's more of like a legend, and there's really no like ending. I really enjoyed this. More of like a legend than really like a story with like a true ending. So, okay, the next book that I finished is Coraline by Neil Gaiman. This is the first time I read this book, and it was a lot scarier, creepier than I expected because this is a middle grade story. And I read this through audiobook, and there were illustrations in the beginnings of each chapter, and there's one specific illustration, I don't know if I can put it up right here, but it was very creepy. I saw it, I was like, hold on, is this really for kids? It was very creepy, and the whole story was very creepy and scary, but I truly enjoyed this. I rated this, I believe, 4 stars, 4.5 stars or something. I really, really, truly enjoyed this. This was a great middle grade spooky read, and definitely more of the spooky, creepier side than kind of just more middle grade-ish, so I really enjoyed this. I have not seen the movie. I feel like I will not enjoy the movie because I don't really like creepy stuff. I mean, I feel like it would be a great movie because I feel like, I think Neil Gaiman was part of the making of the movie or something like that, but I've seen like parts of it, and I feel like it would be a good like creepy film to watch, but I don't think it's particularly something that I would enjoy, as I don't really enjoy creepy stuff, but yeah. Coraline by Neil Gaiman, 4 stars. I really enjoyed this. Okay, the next one that I finished is The Vegetarian by Han Kang, and this is a very short novel. I actually really read this pretty quickly, also because this writing was very beautiful, and I really enjoyed it. I was like riveted right from the beginning, and I was so intrigued with what was happening, and this is definitely a psychological, definitely creepy vibes. It explores a lot of things in very subtle ways that is so well done, in my opinion. So I'm following a character who dreams about things that led her to denounce eating meat, any meat. So she becomes, this is either vegetarian, but she pretty much is a vegan. I don't think she even drinks milk or eats eggs. Maybe she does honey, but I don't really know. She develops an aversion to meat, to anything with blood, and we follow her as she goes through this, and her family is just like confused about her because vegetarianism isn't a big thing in Korea. It's not something that a lot of people follow because part of it is definitely the culture. And so we follow her as her family like struggles with her changing her ways, and her changing and going through a lot of stuff on her own that she's not even aware of. But they see her as she changes, and they want to help, but they're also coming from a good place, but they don't really go about it very well. So I really enjoyed this. I think I rated this a 4.5 stars. The characters are they're not really people that you would like, per se. They're not really meant for you to be like. You're just following them as they go through with this character, and particularly this character, because there's 2 perspectives. Our main character, the main character's brother-in-law, and the main character's sister. So I'm following their perspective, and it's very creepy, but also kind of shows you the effects, the different ways that mental illnesses can manifest in people, and how can they be affected, and how culture also plays a big part of it, and also what how families and loved ones will handle mental illness with like big relations to their culture. So I really enjoyed that story, or like that telling of the experience in mental illness, a very conservative country like Korea. So I really enjoyed this. 4.5 out of 5 stars. It's very short, but it's full and heavy. So I really enjoyed this. Vegetarian by Kang. I know why a lot of people talk about this and read this, and that's why it's won a Man Booker Prize. It's a winner from Man Booker International Prize. So Vegetarian by Kang. And then the last book that I finished is The Hole by Hye-Young Pyun. This is another book that is very well written. Both books are translated, by the way, and they're both from Korean authors. And it's another short story, or like a short novella type of book. And this is another psychological thriller. This was very messed up. This is definitely giving me Parasite vibes in a way. So we're following a character who wakes up from a coma and finds that most of his body is pretty much paralyzed. He was in a car accident with his wife. His wife did not survive, and at first he doesn't really remember much that happened. Like, he wasn't really sure the circumstances of the entire accident. And we're also learning about him, his wife, their family, and their relationship as man and wife, as husband and wife, and what led to the accident, etc. And what is it with the whole. So I truly enjoyed reading this book as well. It did take me quite a few days, mostly because of a thing that I will be talking about after this. So I truly enjoyed this. I really, really liked this, and so I think I would rate this a 4.5 stars as well. Characters, again, they're not really characters that you would necessarily like or dislike. We are following a character who's paralyzed and he's going through that, plus feeling helpless. There's a lot of things that are explored here as well that is very subtle, but also was, I think, handled very well. So yeah, I really enjoyed this book. Alright, so the reason why I felt like this month was not a very good reading month, because I actually spent, I want to say, a good 2-3 weeks reading different stuff. I'm talking about manhwas, or like online mangas, mostly by Korean authors. And I want to share with you guys the novels, the manhwas that I finished, and manhwas that are ongoing that I've caught up to. There's quite a lot, because they're very easy to read, they're very fast to read, and most of these are manhwas that I read like the first few chapters inside. I want to keep reading it, because if I read like the first maybe 2, 3, 4, 5 chapters and I don't enjoy it, I'll definitely drop it, because there's a lot of manhwas that I want to get to in a way, and they're just very addictive. So this is my new thing. Okay, so the first one that I finished, I don't think I finished it this October, or maybe like late September, something like that. This is the first one that I finished, this is the one that got me to read manhwas. Again, I read manhwas before, but not to this like extent. I was devouring them. So the first one is Light and Shadow. I forgot. I didn't write the authors down, I only write the titles down, and I listed them. So this one I finished. This one is already finished, so I finished the entire thing. I found out recently that there's a sequel following the son of our main characters here. So that one I think is still ongoing. I think there's only like a few chapters up, so I'm not planning on reading that anytime soon. Usually these are manhwas that will have 50, 60, 70 plus chapters. Some of them already have like 100 plus chapters, but they're still ongoing. So Light and Shadow, I really enjoyed this. I love the art style, and I really enjoyed the story. And then I also started reading Positively Yours. I stopped at chapter 30. This one I also really, really enjoyed. And then I read A Tender Heart / I Became a Duke's Maid. This is ongoing. I stopped at chapter 68. Most of these, the latest chapters that are translated, are the last chapters that I read. So 68, and then My Secretly Hot Husband / My Husband Hides His Beauty. I stopped at chapter 14. And a lot of these books are actually like isekai stories. Essentially, these are stories where the main character lives in modern Korea and gets transported into this story or this world where they accompany either a character that's already existed before, or a character that's like reborn, or like a character that's already existed before, and either they have the memories or they don't, etc. So they live their lives there. Or these are characters that are kind of reincarnated and goes back either from years before their story ended, or right when they were babies. I really enjoy those are the genres I really enjoyed. Fantasy with like the isekai kind of elements. The next one is I Belong to House Castielo. This one I also really enjoy. I read up to chapter 105, and then Who Made Me a Princess, another one I truly enjoy. I really enjoyed. I stopped chapter 81, and then Adelaide. This one is already done. I also really enjoyed this one. Dr. Elise. This one is another one that I really enjoyed. I stopped at chapter 123. Empress of Another World is already finished. The Maid and the Vampire, another one that is also finished. And then Lady Baby, this one I'm really enjoying. I stopped at chapter 102. And then A Capable Maid, chapter 39. The Abandoned Empress, another one that I really enjoy. Chapter 124. Justice of a Villainous Woman, chapter 112. Emperor's Daughter, 197. See? And then The Reason Why Aureliana Ended Up at the Duke's Mansion, 135, chapter 135. Survives the Hero's Wife, chapter 87. When the Villainess Loves, chapter 10. The Blood of Madame Giselle, chapter 30. This one is adult, so let me just warn you, it's very graphic, okay? So, but I really kind of enjoyed the story as well. A lot of people have mixed reviews about them because we're following a character who's married to an abusive husband in a way, and then she meets a vampire and they have that relationship. So next one is Entangled with a Duke, I'm on chapter 224. Next one, Miss Not So Sidekick. This one is so funny. This is one of the funniest ones that I've read so far, and I stopped at 116, chapter 116. Next one is False Confession. This one I also really enjoy. I couldn't stop reading it. Usually I would read manhwas with either 70, 80 plus chapters. I don't want to ever have, because usually the first 60, 70 chapters, that's where like the bulk of the story is, and there's already a lot happening by the last parts of those. So this one I couldn't stop reading it because it was so good. I really enjoyed it. Okay, the next one is The Duchess's 50 Tea Recipe. Stop at chapter 93. And then Reminiscence Anonymous. This one I also really enjoy. Stop at chapter 153. Next one is Why Are You Doing This, Duke? Chapter 83. This one is also another one that's really funny. Next one is Holy Chef, Crazy Empress, chapter 178. This is also pretty cute. And the next one is They Say I Was Born the King's Daughter, 210. This one is set kind of in like alternative Korea, where it's fantasy, but also it's pretty much still like royal family of Korea, but more modern. And there's also powers and magic. The society is patriarchal, like heavily patriarchal. Like the women here are pretty much seen as objects, so they're absolutely not respected, and it's a misogynistic world, like uber misogynistic world, and a lot of people have dropped this because of the misogynistic theme. I still really enjoy this. Obviously there's like elements of this that I absolutely do not like, but I really like where the story is going. That's why I reached after chapter 210. So again, these are all ongoing, so the latest chapter where I stop are usually the latest chapters that they have, and usually they would update every week or so. Some of them take like a whole month off, and then they'll upload like a bunch of them at the same time. So I will be stopping here and then probably checking this in a few months, because I don't want to have to like constantly check this. I don't know, we'll see. But right now I'm just looking for new ones every time I finish one. So I also want to share some that I'm currently reading. This is for November. I kind of made a guesstimate of which ones I stopped reading in October, but I want to share with you the ones that I'm currently reading right now, or the ones that I finished during November. So again, I read a lot because these are very easy to read. Even though I'm on chapter 200 plus or 100 plus, they're very easy to read. Like I would read them, I would finish like a whole like 100 plus chapter, or 150, 160, 70 chapters in one day. So yeah, they're very easy to read, very easy to binge. So the next one is Charlotte's Letter. This one I really like. I stopped at chapter 76, and this one is a fantasy mystery kind of novel, and I'm really liking where this is going, and I want to read more, obviously. The next one is Cat's Bride at chapter 64. Next one is Detective of Miuella. This one I also really like. Chapter 99. As You Wish Prince, this one's already done and I finished it already. Lady Beast, I stopped at chapter 71. Emperor and the Female Knight, this one was so funny. I just finished reading the latest chapter yesterday, stopped at chapter 85. And Incest Law, this one I started last night, and this morning I finished the latest chapter after 83. This one I enjoyed so much. The last two, the latest ones, The Emperor and the Female Knight and Incest Law, are so funny, and I really like them because, you know, like, especially Emperor and the Female Knight, it's very different from the other, like, manhwas that I mentioned, because the main characters are just very different. And then Incest Law is so good. Incest Law is not fantasy, historical fantasy kind of story, unlike the rest of the ones that I mentioned. This one is set in like modern Korea, but there are fantasy elements in here. We're following a character that wakes up one day and finds that she's part of a manhwa. So she's surrounded by the main characters, and she's the main female character's best friend. So I really like this one. I thought in the beginning I thought it was Extraordinary You, I think, the Korean drama I watched that one. It's very fun. I thought it was based on this manhwa, because I think Extraordinary You was based on a manhwa, and I thought it was this one because the main character's name is Dan-i, and the main character is, I think, Dana or Dan, something like that, in Extraordinary. So I thought, I was like, oh, wait, is this a book? But then it's the manhwa, and then it's not. But it was, at first it was very similar. I was like, wait, hold on. But I really like this one. I'm getting clown nose. So those are all of the stuff that I've been reading for the month of October and some for November. So again, I don't know how long this manhwa binge reading is gonna last, but we're here and I really enjoyed it, so I'm really enjoying where I am. But yeah, that is all for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and if you guys read manhwas and you know these manhwas that I like and you think you have suggestions for me, please let me know down below, because I'm still looking, because I finished these novels, these manhwas, in one day because they're very easy to read. So yeah, and I know a lot of them take years to make. Like, they would update every week or so usually, and then obviously people have to translate them because most of these are in Korean and some of them are Chinese. So oh my god, my nose. So yeah, that is it for this video. I hope you guys enjoyed, and I will see you on my next one. Bye.